Good morning. This is Paul Woodadge for WW2 TV. It's June the 8th, 80th anniversary of D-Day and the commencing of the Battle of Normandy, and I am in the village of Cambes-en-Plaine, which you can see on the monument here. And this is a very personal day for me because this is where my great uncle Cyril fought 80 years ago. The village itself, I've always thought it has an almost English feel because it's kind of leafy and suburban and, you know, bushes and hedges and the church is over there. And my great uncle's foxhole for about a month of the fighting, I'm skipping ahead in the story, was off and around the side where there are some houses now. And I'm going to be attending a ceremony in an hour and a half's time. But this battle is quite an interesting one and not talked about enough. You'll notice there's two divisional patches represented on the monument: the 59th Staffordshire Division and my great uncle's division, the 3rd British, Montgomery's division himself in 1940. And there is the Royal Ulster Rifles cap badge from 9th of June to the 3rd of July 44. So that's the battle for Cambes-en-Plaine. It's nearly a month. The attack into here was on the 7th of June, and then the rest of the village was taken and Counts has been liberated on June the 9th. And we're walking up this road to my right shortly to another monument. You can see there's pipers over there on their way over to practice because there'll be a Van d'honneur later on in the town hall area here. But this is Cambes-en-Plaine, and I'm going to walk up the road now. It's going to take me a bit of a while to walk up there. And it's interesting for various reasons. Some people have argued that the Battle of Cambes-en-Plaine might even be one of the bloodiest square miles of the Normandy campaign. Not just the Royal Ulster Rifles, but the Lincolns, Leicesters, and Sherman tanks, East Riding Yeomanry. Lots of losses here. And as I say, if you notice around me, it's got perhaps of an English feel. Often the French villages have that right beside the pavement. But here you've got this looser, sort of wider area. And it's probably because, well, not probably because, it is because of the reconstruction that had to go on here after the war because there was so much damage. I'm just gonna carry on walk. I had to adjust my stabilizer; it was wobbling a bit. So my great uncle was from West London, sort of Surrey area. So he's as English as was as English as you could get. But his local territorial unit was the London Irish Rifles. And the parent unit of the London Irish Rifles is the Royal Ulster Rifles. So obviously originating in Ulster in Northern Ireland. And when my great uncle got his commission, his name was Cyril Rand, he was commissioned into the Royal Ulster Rifles and found himself joining a C Company of the 2nd Battalion, who were going to be trained up for Operation Overlord. And he landed, you may have seen, I've got to adjust my, whoops. You may have seen my June Sword Beach video yesterday afternoon. And he landed on Sword Beach so later in the morning. So we had a couple of casualties pushing inland, but it wasn't as bad as the early waves. The real baptism of fire was attacking Cambes-en-Plaine. And Cambes-en-Plaine, a few miles inland from the beach, sort of halfway between the beach and Caen, really. The British kind of didn't really consider it much of a threat. Why would there be any Germans there? It's not a sort of a vital crossroads or anything. But what happened is the 21st Panzer counterattacks towards Sword Beach on D-Day, a battle group that ended up here in Cambes-en-Plaine, at least 5 Mark IV tanks and, couple of companies maybe of German infantry and anti-tank guns, and you know the score. And it was D Company who did the main assault in. Actually, I'll better wander this way and come out in the little road. No, I won't. Changing my mind. And D Company were the assault company on June the 7th. My uncle, great uncle in C Company was sort of follow up. And but it was a tough battle for Cambes-en-Plaine. And my great uncle, when he joined his platoon, the sergeant, who was a Southern Irish, so from the Republic, so fighting with the British to rid the world of the Germans, but fiercely loyal to the Irish, he told my great uncle to ditch his Sten gun, ditch his pistol, and carry a number 4 rifle. Now, this cemetery I'm talking about here, I'll be coming here later. I don't want to disturb these gentlemen having some time here. This is actually burials from Operation Charnwood, which was the beginning of July. My great uncle's buddies are mostly buried at Douve de Livron and Hermanville up near the beaches. So these are mostly burials from the first week of July. I might go in there in a minute, but I'll be quiet when I go in there. Not having that binocular kind of thing. It was, and so he carried a number 4 rifle for most of his time in Normandy. And he said it served him well because he didn't get picked out by a sniper, and he survived at least till August, when he was blown up by a grenade in the Battle of Troarn, kind of the second part of Operation Goodwood, I suppose you'd call it. So there's lots of people gathering here for the ceremony. And they're thinking, what's this guy doing here? But hopefully they'll see my Royal Ulster Rifles pin on my jacket. So I'll go in the cemetery later. There's seats there setting up for the ceremony. So I'm just taking you up to the monument to the Royal Ulster Rifles. When I first came here with my great uncle, I've no idea what year it was, something, and I've got a photo of him standing here. And of course, that was in the era when there were probably 20 or so Royal Ulster Rifles veterans in attendance. Maybe there'll be 1 or 2, but I really highly doubt it. It'll be descendants, sons and daughters here, relatives, members of the regiments that have evolved out of the Royal Ulster Rifles will be here. Irish Rangers, things like that. Since people are getting ready for the ceremony. So my great uncle was one of the guys who actually was here at the unveiling of this back in, I think it was 1994. And there again is insignia for the Royal Ulster Rifles. So it's counted as liberated on June the 9th, but the battle began on the 7th. I'll show you the wheat fields over here. This is the kind of open country you get around Cambes-en-Plaine. So you have these fortified villages, or could be fortified. In this case, it was elements of 21st Panzer and others. And you end up attacking through open wheat fields. There's a sign there, the Royal Ulster Rifles Road. Chemin means road in that context. And there's an open field over here. There's anyone actually watching this. Let me have a look at my comments. There's a few there. Morning, Willie. There's a warehouse on the outskirts of the town now. But good for the cardio this morning. But I'll show you over there. That's what I mean. These open wheat fields that are around the town. And the Royal Ulster Rifles suffered pretty terrible losses on the 7th of June. There was a railway line that ran through Cambes-en-Plaine now. And there is actually a remains of a station around the other side of the village. A bit too far to walk, I think. Well, nowhere's too far to walk. It's just how long it takes me. With bullet holes spang on it. And this story here ties up with the Canadians of the 9th Brigade advancing towards Buron and Oti, which we've covered on the channel because this is the left-hand flank of the advance and on Cambes-en-Plaine, and the right-hand flank was through Villon-les-Buissons, Buron, and Oti, and the advance of the British basically got halted here in Cambes-en-Plaine for a month. And this is where my great uncle was, and for that time. And the day after the liberation of the village, June the 9th, my great uncle's foxtail was down near the church, and his sergeant, the same Irish sergeant I believe it was, had dug his foxhole for him. And there was a sheep the next morning, and the sheep had obviously blown itself up on a mine or something. It was missing the bottom part of its jaw. And from my great uncle, it was the sight of the sheep that was in some ways more distressing than the dead humans. It's that way that us as human beings process loss, and it was the animal's death that kind of brought him in. And this area here is also important to Ben Main. Ben is still in Normandy, I think, because Ben Main's great friend Alan King in the East Riding Yeomanry, there was a little cemetery in this bit of field here. Some of the men killed in the beginning of Charnwood were buried here in this field. Then they were moved over to the top of a cemetery on the other side of the road. So this is a very important place to me. This is part of the reason I do what I do, because Cambes-en-Plaine, that was where my great uncle fought, and lots of his friends fought here. Some men he served alongside in Operation Charnwood were buried here at the Cambes-en-Plaine cemetery. But I've got to say, the men who died in the battles for June aren't buried here. They're buried elsewhere. But the men from Charnwood are buried here. But basically, that's all I'm going to do right now. I may do a live stream from the ceremony, but I don't think I will. I'm more likely to video it and do something with it. I don't know. But I don't want to kind of be the idiot talking. But you've seen me go to cemetery before. Maybe I'll go to it later on. You can see gentlemen down here with the corbine. We've talked about this on the channel. So this is the Irish version of a kind of a, it's not a beret, but it's their headgear. So the rifle green. But I think none of these are World War II vets. But I'm going to go. I will see you all later on. This is Paul Woodadge from WW2TV saying enjoy the rest of your June the 8th unless I appear later.